guys. So today I wanted to talk about, calories, maintenance calories, calorie deficit, all those terms we hear a lot about. And then we'll touch a little bit on some hormonal stuff, which I know you guys like to hear about. So let's just get into something right here. One thing I always get asked, why am I eating so much? Now, let's dive right into this. Now we have right here, we see our calories, right? What is a calorie? Calorie, it's a unit of energy. That's really all you need to know about it. What are maintenance calories? Which I'm sure a lot of you have probably came across hearing that. Now, maintenance calories are what it sounds like. It's the number of calories you need to eat in a day to maintain your weight. Now, the next thing, calorie deficit. Everybody loves a calorie deficit. You hear about this all the time, and sometimes people just don't know what it is. So let's talk about it. Now, a calorie deficit is when you consume fewer calories that is required to maintain your body weight. So you are eating fewer calories than your maintenance calories. So it means you're using more energy than you're taking in through food. Next is a calorie surplus for all you guys bulking out there. Now, this is the exact opposite of a deficit. A surplus is when you consume more calories than your maintenance, resulting in weight gain. Hopefully muscle, not fat. Next is your metabolism. This is the entirety of your body's chemical processes. Now, two huge processes that involve breaking down and building things: catabolism and anabolism. Now, here's one that I'm sure some of you have heard: metabolic adaptation. Now, what is this? This is a change in your metabolic rate as an adjustment to your dietary intake. So, you see this all the time when people are losing weight and they stall. You just witnessed metabolic adaptation. You were consuming fewer calories than your maintenance weight, and your body needed to adjust and slow down to prevent more weight loss. Now, you might get mad at your body for doing this, but this is your body trying to survive. Your body is a survival mechanism internally. And just by evolution and as we are as an organism, we want to survive. So losing a lot of weight, losing a lot of fat, losing these things really fast is not survival positive. So that's why we have a lot of adaptations that we see that go on. Now, this picture is awesome. This is the big picture of nutrition for health by Alan Aragon, who is a phenomenal nutrition researcher that I suggest all you guys go follow after you guys listen to this. One really cool post he had was this triangle. Now, this triangle, I love it because the entire outside of the triangle is in, encompassed by this adherence and long-term sustainability outline. Now, what holds this whole triangle together is your adherence, your ability to follow your plan, whatever it may be, and doing it in the long term. That is what will keep all of this together. So we see this diminishing importance line that goes up. So the higher we go up, the less important things are. Now the bottom, we see macro and micronutrition. So making sure, protein, carbs, fats, our micronutrients are all included in our diet. Energy balance, which is your calories. And then the quality of the nutrient sources, processed stuff versus non-processed stuff, things of that nature. Next, coverage across the food groups. Now, when we talk about food groups, we're talking about protein, fat, carbs. Are we covering all these bases in these macronutrients? Next up the list is the diversity within the food groups. Now, as you see, the triangle is going upwards, and this is becoming less important. Now, diversity within a food group. We're talking about, basmati rice versus jasmine rice, or Ezekiel bread versus rye bread, um, unsprouted versus sprouted, pasta versus potatoes, things like that, diversity within the food group. Now, this might be a little bit more important for some other people in terms of adherence. So, keeping this whole thing together, the diversity within these food groups may be a little bit more important. But in the general gist of things, diversity and variation of food groups within the food groups, is not as important as people make it think. I think a lot of people get caught up with, I need variety, because they're still clinging on to their old eating habits. And then finally, we see meal timing. So let's take sports performance out of the picture right now. As far as importance goes, meal timing is of least importance. It's just important to get all your calories in and your meals in. It's not as important to be timing things. Eating every 2 hours versus every 5 hours does not have a huge impact on general weight loss. Now, if we take sports performance applications into the mix and athletes and things like that, meal timing might become more important and move towards the bottom of the pyramid. So right here, we see energy balance. What is energy balance? Well, we just talked about calories, maintenance calories, all these things. How do we get to know that stuff? So one cool thing right here that I found is your percent of total daily energy expenditure. And what is that? That's the amount of calories that you burn throughout the day. Now, right here we have your basal metabolic rate, your NEAT, your TEF, and your EAT. We'll get into all these in a second. So let's talk about your basal metabolic rate first. Now, as you can see, this is a huge account of your total daily energy expenditure. Your basal metabolic rate is the calories burned by your body to carry out basic functions. So pretty much the calories burned to keep you alive. And then we see here the NEAT, which I'm sure a lot of you people have heard about. NEAT is non-exercise activity thermogenesis. These are the calories burned during non-exercise activities. So walking the dog, gardening outside, cleaning the closet, going to the mall, things like that. These are all non-exercise activity calories that we're burning. Next, we see TEF, which is the thermal effect of food. So to keep things just plain and simple, these are the calories burned digesting your food. So in order to get the calories from your food, we must burn calories to extract that energy from the food. And then next is your exercise activity thermogenesis. So it's exactly what it is, exercise activity. When we exercise, we use calories. How many calories depends on the duration and intensity of the exercise we did. So this is pretty cool that we can see here the percentage of your total daily energy expenditure. Your BMR is your resting energy expenditure. Your NEAT, thermal effective food, and exercise are your non-resting energy expenditures. So once we get this TDEE, how do we calculate this? How do we get here? So I made this total daily energy expenditure calculator here, and I use the revised Harris-Benedict equation, which is generally better for people that are more overweight, as most of my clients are looking to lose weight. So I found that this works a lot better for people. Let's just take somebody, let's do a 28-year-old male who is 5'8", so he's 68 inches, converts to centimeters, and let's say he is 150 pounds, right? So he's 100, no, let's say he's 200 pounds, just to make it easy. 200 pounds divided by 2.2 to find kilograms is a 90.9. We'll do 91 kilograms. So right here, we just got his basal metabolic rate. So in order for his body to function properly and carry out basic functions, he needs to be consuming 1991 calories. Now we need to add into effect his exercise, right? And a little bit of his life, his day to day. So here we have this box right here with sedentary, lightly active, moderately active, very active, and extra active. Now, sedentary are people who little to no exercise and they work a sedentary job as well. Lightly active, light exercise 1 to 3 times a week, still work a sedentary like job. Moderately active is where most people will fall into. They work a semi-sedentary job and train 6 to 7 days a week. And then as we get more intense and less sedentary in our jobs, we see very active and extra active. So let's put him just right in the middle at moderately active, and we now have his total daily energy expenditure, which is 3,086 calories. So now we have this number, right? This number is not set in stone because some people may start eating this amount of calories and they might gain weight over a few weeks. Now, by definition, they're in a calorie surplus. So previously to starting this diet and on these calories, they were consuming less than their maintenance, thus making them gain weight. Um, Making them gain weight once they started eating at their calculated maintenance. So calculated maintenances are to be taken with a grain of salt. That's why you can see a lot of coaches and nutritionists, trainers ask you about your daily diet leading up to making you a nutrition program. This is to give us a better idea of where your calories actually are. Because let's say this guy we just did an example about was actually eating close to this, it would be easier to just start him right at this amount, keep that consistent for a few weeks, give his body time for metabolic adaptation to happen, and then more than likely he will only fluctuate a half pound or a pound, and that is going to be his calorie maintenance. And then from there we can start manipulating calories to cause weight loss. So now let's talk about weight loss, right? So 3,086 calories, right? We want him to lose about what? Let's say a pound a week. That's 500 calories a day. So he would be eating 2,586 calories a day. To lose 1 pound a week, we put him in a 500 calorie deficit. Now, that might not be enough for some people. Some people may want to push the envelope a little bit more. I always talk about slower weight loss is better weight loss, and it's healthier. You don't run into risks of, sacrificing performance, digestion, mental health, things like that if you take a slow and steady approach and kind of just adapt the lifestyle. You'll see with a lot of my clients that have been with me a long time, they started off slow with me, and over time they just changed without making crazy swings to their calories. And it's because they adopted a lifestyle, which was the whole goal of coming under my wing. So I always preach that. A lot of people might disagree with me, and that's fine. But one thing you'll see people say is you want to lose anywhere between a 0.5% or 1% of your weight. So if he weighs 200 pounds, we want him to lose anywhere between 1 to 2 pounds a week. So we want him to lose about right there to keep things just steady progressively along. So this is a calorie shift of 500 calories a day deficit or 1,000 calorie day deficit. But some people want even more than that. They want the scale to just drop fast. And I think that has a slew of issues that come along with that. And one major thing being about that is it's going to take a lot of, it's going to harm a lot of things. Um, and not just internally, but also mentally and physically as well. So, one thing I always tell people is ask yourself this question. Do you want to lose weight fast just to see a number on a scale, but go to the gym the next day and perform half your best? That's a big thing that people need to focus on when it comes to wanting to lose weight quickly. So let's talk about cutting calories too fast and why I think it's not a smart idea. So, right here, number one, if you cut your calories too quick and they drop a lot, it's going to be really hard to meet your nutrition needs. Um, so, it's going to be hard to pack in vitamins, minerals, a healthy carb, fat, protein division about those. So, it's going to be hard to meet these nutrient needs if your calorie intake is too low. Now, what did I just talk about? Exercise performance is going to suffer due to lack of energy. You're not going to be having calories to burn up for your workout. So your exercise performance is going to drop. Now, this is important for our overall health because it helps meet that weight loss goal. So if our exercise performance drops because we cut calories too quickly, we're damaging the weight loss journey in that. Your NEAT may drop as well. You might not have the energy to do extra things. Your NEAT is very subconscious energy you're burning. It's things that you're doing without even thinking about it. As I'm sitting here talking to you guys right now, I'm burning calories. As I walk around the house because we're still on lockdown, it's burning calories. So if we don't have those extra calories and that extra energy, things like walking around, walking outside, doing things around the house aren't as consistent as they used to be. So that calorie expenditure comes down even more. And then you risk losing muscle mass. Your body needs a certain amount of protein to support a number of different body functions, and that includes building and maintaining your muscle tissue right now. We have a constant amino acid turnover that's going on daily. And if we're not eating enough calories, some of that protein we're eating can be converted to be burned for fuel. Amino acids can be turned into glucose. So that could result in losing muscle mass from muscle tissue breakdown. And then finally, cutting calories too quickly, you might just get too hungry, and your chances of cheating on your diet will increase. And that is a big no no. And then finally, I told you guys we'll talk a little bit about hormonal stuff because, as much as it is calories in, calories out, sometimes hormones have a lot to do with that. Hormones are king, they are the drivers for fat loss and muscle gaining. And I think that's one thing a lot of people neglect. They just think the diet's not working, or it's their coach, their trainer, their nutritionist, whatever it may be, when really it could be something internally going on that's wrong. So let's, talk a little bit about thyroid metabolism because this is a very popular topic when it comes to weight loss. So right here I have a picture of the hypothalamic pituitary thyroid axis. So what is all this? It's just the hypothalamus, the pituitary, and the thyroid, how these all work together. So let's look here. We have T4 and T3. These are created by a protein or from a protein called thyroglobulin, which is made up of tyrosine, and it's found right inside the follicular cells of the thyroid gland. Next on the list, we have thyroid peroxidase. This is an enzyme that is in these thyroid follicles, which forms the precursor monoiodotyrosine and diiodotyrosine, which is for T4 and T3 formation. These are formed when tyrosine units on thyroglobulin bind to iodine. Now, I'm sure a lot of you have heard about iodine and its relationship to the thyroid. I'm sure there's like thyroid boosting Facebook ads that talk about iodine supplementation, things like that. So, iodine right here is where we see a very important function of it. Now, we'll get to a little bit more about iodine later. Let's talk about now thyroid stimulating hormone. This is released from the pituitary gland, and this is all controlled by thyrotropin releasing hormone. So, thyrotropin releasing hormone is what stimulates the pituitary to release thyroid stimulating hormone. Now, these work together with each other. So, we see that thyroid stimulating hormone is what ultimately dictates how much thyroid hormone is required to be released in the body. So when thyroid hormones are high, thyroid release stimulating hormone production is suppressed. So if we have a lot of thyroid hormone, thyroid releasing hormone is not going to be stimulating thyroid stimulating hormone. Or I'm sorry, thyrotropin releasing hormone is not going to be stimulating the pituitary gland to release thyroid stimulating hormone. So thyroid stimulating hormone production is suppressed when thyroid hormones are high. And then the same negative feedback occurs when thyroid stimulating hormone is high. So when thyroid stimulating hormone stimulates those follicular cells in the thyroid, the iodinated tyrosines of thyroglobulin get removed, and this yields T4 and T3 for secretion by the gland. And this results in about 100 micrograms of T4 and about 6 micrograms of T3. Next, we have enzymes called deiodinase enzymes, and these are in peripheral tissues like your liver, kidney, brain, skeletal muscle. These remove that iodine from T4 and allow it to convert to T3. So we have T4 right here. These enzymes come in and they remove the iodine to allow T4 to convert to T3. T4 is a inactive sorry, my mic cut out. T4 must be converted to T3. And then we also see here that T4 gets converted to reverse T3, which is an inactive metabolite of T4. So this approximately yields somewhere close to about 25 micrograms a day of T3. So here we have the 26, or the 23 and the 6 here. It's around 25 micrograms a day. Next we have, after the secretion of the thyroid, only a very small amount of thyroid hormones travel freely in the blood. Most are bound to thyroxine binding globulin, which is really similar to sex hormone binding globulin. So thyroxine binding globulin releases the T4 and T3 as needed. So what does this have to do with weight loss? Now, in a weight loss scenario, calories are being reduced to lower body fat. Lowering body fat ultimately leads to lowering in leptin signaling and production, which is why carbohydrate refeeds are often introduced as the increase in calories, and that can yield an upregulation in leptin and lowering of ghrelin. Leptin has now been shown to be important in having this regulatory effect on thyroid stimulating hormone, which we know ultimately feeds into transforming T4 to T3. So low leptin is associated with a decrease in thyroid stimulating hormone activity. So we must do the necessary to keep leptin signaling high to ensure this thyroid stimulating hormone remains active and undisturbed. So things like intense training, cardio, lowered immune function, hormonal imbalances, food intolerances, these are all sources of stress and inflammation on the body during weight loss. Um, and then that increases as the intensity of the person's weight loss increases. So one main storage area of T4 and T3 that is not talked about a lot is the gut. Gut bacteria in the GI tract produces an enzyme that converts about 20% T4 to T3 in the GI tract in forms of T3 sulfate and I don't even know how to say this word, but T3 acetic acid. So inflammation in the gut can lead to significantly lower conversions as well as inflammation raising cortisol. Now, a raise in cortisol would increase the conversion of T3 to reverse T3, and reverse T3 is inactive. So we don't want that to happen. Now, right here, also, you know, there's increases in androgens and estrogens, and this influences the amount of thyroid binding globulin. And if we increase thyroid binding globulin, there's less free thyroid hormones in circulation to interact with cell receptors. So we have a person that's going through a fat loss stage, and there's a few scenarios here. Reduced calories could possibly lowered leptin signaling, possible gut inflammation from a past lifestyle or their general lifestyle now, and that would lead to poor gut thyroid conversion. Mineral deficiencies like iodine, selenium, tyrosine, which are required for selenoprotein and deiodinase enzymes. And then stress, both physiological and emotional, from training or intense cardio, could increase cortisol and possibly increase reverse T3 conversion. So these are all things that could have an effect on someone's thyroid during dieting, and they're things that we should be aware about. And then next, I found this cool little study. It was on people who did a 12-month weight loss and its relation to the thyroid. So here we see weight and fat mass dropping, and we also see T3 dropping. As weight drops, T3 drops. As body fat drops, T3 drops. Thyroid stimulating hormone as well saw a significant decrease here, and then kind of came back and fell off again. We also see free T4 increase in the beginning, then to decrease and then level off. And then we see also here this big spike in reverse T3. Now, what this could be, it could be a few things. We see here that the T4 into T3 is likely responsible for the keeping thyroid homeostasis, but this is indicated by a lot right here. We can compare this 3-month mark. T3 and T4 ratio had a very significant drop here. So that could indicate a big conversion of thyroid hormone. And then also around that 3-month mark, we see this reverse T3 increase. So that was just a cool little study just to look at a few things and how your thyroid responded to weight loss. But yeah, I just wanted to talk about this stuff today. So, please like, subscribe, share, listen in however you want. We will be recording with Leaf Anderson, which I'm sure a lot of you guys know, on Friday. and today is Wednesday the 20th. So please, guys, please like, comment, subscribe, share, and thank you guys so much. Hope you enjoyed it.